Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
The whole idea, like I've been explaining to everybody, is these conversations, I call them the Warriors Code, and basically how they work is it's kind of like the values and principles that underlie like top class performers, how they train, and then also how they compete. And we often talk about, like, a lot of times when you chat to players who've like either currently playing at like the highest level or have played at the highest level in the past, you often, like, sometimes these chats just like revolve around what they won and all that kind of stuff. But the things that I want to get out of it is what were the values and the principles that, like, every day in practice and when you play in competition, that kind of like laid the foundation for all the great things that happen in people's careers and stuff like that. And you've been kind of in the unique position where, like, you competed at the highest level a little while back, but then also over the last while you've been out doing your commentary and stuff, watching the new generation at the highest level. So you've kind of got like a double perspective on it. So you've seen it like over a large span of time. So the first couple of bits I want to ask you about is in your own days when you were like competing on the European Tour and on the Challenge Tour and playing Walker Cups and coming up, like, you know, through the Irish system and all that kind of crack. What were the main values and principles that you had initially in your early years that kind of, if we start with like your training first, like what was the things that motivated and drove you to train as hard as you did to get as good as you got? If you get me?
I suppose, I've been playing golf, through 5 decades now, and originally when we started off, like way back when I was 8 or 9 years old, they were back in very warm summers, 84, 83, maybe 82, 80, 81. And we were very lucky that there's a group of guys that I sort of lived beside that we all played various sports, whether it was hockey, rugby, cricket, Gaelic football, and I came from a relatively Protestant area in Northern Ireland as a Catholic. And even then, sport was relatively united, which was quite special,
Yeah.
And I got the chance to play a whole range of sports, and and the athleticism, came from playing sport like day in, day out, especially those warm summers where, we weren't traveling to Donegal for 5 weeks or in a caravan, or we weren't going to Spain, or we were a pretty settled bunch of young kids. I think 6 of the lads played hockey for Ireland, like Mark Tumbledy is still the Irish national hockey coach, and suppose it was bred into us quite young, and we practiced at different sports. And then obviously Rory Leonard was part of that group of us, Rory, myself, Mark, and Rory were the same age. His younger brother Barry was, my little buddy that I played a lot more golf with. His older brother Lee, he played a bit of golf. And then Rory, obviously most people know Rory's what he's done around the country for introducing junior golfers, and he would have great experience from learning through that. And then obviously we played golf in Barnbridge Golf Club, and then there was the Maidleys, Robin Madeley, Rory Madeley, and their father David Madeley played Walker Cup and was a great amateur golfer, member of Royal County Down, Royal Belfast. And his mother, Margaret Coburn, I think would have been her maiden name. I think Margaret may have won 5 Irish ladies close championships, possibly maybe 4, but certainly in around that number. She was an amazing lady golfer. And then there was people like Kenny Stevenson, who was a great amateur golfer at the time. And suppose we all got stuck in, and we just, it was a 9-hole, then 12-hole golf course. Suppose there wasn't too many of us played golf, and we just dug the golf course up through the summer, jam sandwiches and bottles of my waddy, and we were just sent down to the golf course. It was a safe haven to be at, and we all sort of got addicted to playing golf and playing other sports. And then obviously through the winter then we kept playing different sports at the school, and even the school in Banbridge played a bit of golf. There's a lady there that took an interest in golf. And then obviously then, from my own perspective, I went off to the Abbey CBS in Newry, and there was a teacher there called Big Jed, Pat Mooney, and he had a golf team. The golf team we actually ended up winning the schools, the world schools in St Andrews a few years later. But they had won that back with the likes of Ronan Rafferty and Jim Carville and Pat Traynor and Danny Power, these guys way back in the sort of early 70s. And Big Jed sort of got his coaching from Don Patterson every Monday after school. And we were brought up to the coaching with Don and for a very small amount of money. And then obviously from being 8 years old to sort of 10, 11 years old, Don had, as most people know, has sort of was way above his time. Even the stuff that you'd learn today would be relatively the same, on the same guidelines that Don would teach back then,
Right.
And there was a few of us played them. I got into Warren Point Golf Club, and obviously it was Doc Rafferty, Ronan Rafferty's father, got us in there. And then obviously that's where the sort of team competition, team sort of ethos started from. The Warren Point Golf Club had a tremendous sort of, it had nearly applied to Gaelic football. It was voluntary positions. No one was getting paid for doing some of the work that some of the gentlemen and the ladies partook in. They were giving up their own time for us as kids. And Miles McCann, the local bakery, would always throw a few quid in for sandwiches and chips and little bits and pieces that the kids wanted during the day. And there was a great atmosphere in the golf club. And then I sort of got involved playing golf with the likes of Paddy Gribben and Jim Carville, Tommy Carville, Bobby Orr, Eddie Barr, who's out in Australia, Pat Traynor, that would be Barry Trainor's dad. And they were incredible bunch. The bunch of guys are all +2. Gary McNeil, the current pro in Royal Portrush, Gary was like, suppose, a big brother to me, because we sort of lived in between Banbridge and Warren Point. And Gary was like my he was the guy that picked me off the bus when I was supposed to be going to school, but I was getting into Gary's car going to play golf. And he sort of drove me around and played in various teams together. And then there was a unity there, suppose, that will never ever go away. It's something that was, and we were very competitive against one another, and we'd always be trying to beat one another. Suppose I was like the little brother to a certain extent that Gary never had, or I was like the little brother that played golf against Paddy Gribben, who I was trying to beat him all the time, and Kenny Stevenson and these guys. And then from there, then obviously we got our handicap was down, I don't know, around 11 or 12, maybe 5.53 handicap. And then we got into, there was county golf, and then there was obviously Ulster Provincial, very similar, to be honest, than what it is today. It was, and one of the things that I sort of I see happening more now is, and I even see it from seeing great players that I used to play with and great players that I see now when I do a bit of commentary that at the highest level, is that it was always, I mean, years ago there was a lot of needling and a lot of sort of, bit of crack, but at the same time we were trying to take the heads off each other and give each other black eyes. But at the same time, it was a bit like Roy Keane. You might have fell over in a tackle, but you always jumped right back up and got on with it. You never fell back and started crying in the corner. You start crying in the corner, they'll know your weakness. And then, from there we went into Ulster coaching, and there's likes of Robbie Huttons and, Gareth McGimpsey's and, Neil Anderson's, and, who were at a different maybe level in us. They were sort of guys that maybe had full-time jobs and quite professional people. And then you learned a little bit more from them in regards to your sort of everyday, your lifestyle, etc. Then you had Howard Bennett, who was an amazing Howard probably was. He never really coached me to the extent maybe that he coached Padraig Harrington, because Padraig probably didn't really have a technical swing coach until he maybe met Howard, or maybe a little bit of John Jacobs, where Don was always my go-to guy. you know, anything technically said to you. Well, most times you do, but it's the confidence thing that you know that they're your go-to person, your go-to guy. And then all that coaching and all the training that we did in Ulster, you know, then obviously that was replied back to our club at Barton Cups or Barton Shields or Senior Cups, Junior Cups. The team ethos that then was created primarily by the Golfing Union with all the 4 provinces, and obviously Ulster played a big part in that, like Leinster, Connacht, and Munster. And then obviously then you go and play and for junior interprovincials, and then you put yourself up against the best, 30 miles away, 100 miles away, 300 miles away, and then you're playing against the best in Munster, the best in Leinster, the best in Connacht, and maybe the best in Donegal. And then you sort of, all those ingredients of competitiveness that you do, at ground level, when the days you're running home from school, getting your bicycle, go down to playing golf, or the putt that you're trying to make to win the Open, or the putt you're trying to make to win this or that and the other. And then that all come together, and the competitiveness was rampant throughout the whole nation. Ireland has won. You played against, the Ken Kearneys, the Leslie Walkers, or the Arthur Pierces, or the Tom, the guys in Leinster that you played against, the Adrian Morrows, the guys that all great people and great guys, and very competitive in their own way. Some people, obviously had shots that they could hit. Some people didn't maybe have the shots they could hit, but other people had different compartments of their game that was, that was 7 out of 10. Some guys had where it was 10 out of 10 in one compartment, and maybe 1 out of 10 the other compartment. And I think the Golfing Union, in fairness to them, over the last, certainly since maybe the early 80s where I got involved, or the mid 80s maybe, they've had tremendous ambassadors from a voluntary perspective, because it wasn't really a power ego trip from any, remember Mick McGinley, Paul's father, like myself and David Higgins were in Iceland one time, and we ordered a few pizzas too many and a few Coca-Colas maybe, and the pizzas might have been €25 each, and the Coca-Colas might have been €5. But sure, Mick would have put that and paid for that out of his own pocket. He wasn't the type of guy that was. None of these guys were sort of harbouring the system in any way, or trying to.
Yeah.
They weren't trying to be any special, but they had great voluntary commitment and voluntary love for the Christie, or the Green, Jimmy Green, whatever his name is, in the Grange, or the guy from Sligo, or the guy, Dick Barry from Mallow. These people had tremendous love for the game. There's tremendous love for the Golfing Union. They wanted to produce the next champion golfer, like Darren Clark or Harrington or Rory became, or Shane Larry became. It's a testament to that, and that's to that sort of journey that a lot of guys have went through. Gary McNeil being the pro in Royal Portrush and played a big part last year. He went through that system. The David Walkers are over in Florida now. The Sean Hogans, who coaches for David Ledbetters, or the Donald Scotts, or the guys around the country on a daily basis that are growing the game. The Neil Manchips, who developed through Kevin Whitson. The Dave Kearneys, who developed through Kevin Whitson, and maybe Kevin Whitson would have learned that from different, the Michael Bannons of the world in Royal County Down, and we all sort of collectively give a little bit back to a certain extent, whether it's sometimes it's small, sometimes it's very, very big, or sometimes people see more of it, some people see less of it. Like, I've probably brought 1,000 golfers from beginners age the last 13 years into golf. They may not all be golfers in my club, but they're golfers all around. So we all try to grow the game. But it's the excitement. It was the excitement, in my opinion, that gave me the strive to, to go out and practice, to go out and play, to be competitive. It's sort of with the troubles in Northern Ireland, it was overshadowed in my life by the fact that I could go out to the golf course and go around and play golf, and didn't really know. There was no social media, not really any newspapers that you really wanted to read. That you just went on about your own business and tried to enjoy your life. And I suppose the fun aspect was the biggest thing for me, that I remember that every time you went anywhere, or every time anybody was bringing you anywhere, and there's a lot of people played a big part in that. You know, as I said earlier about volunteers or coaches that give up their free time, or other dads that give up their free time. You know, Gary Murphy's father, Jim, was a fantastic character, and anywhere you went, Jim might be there, and he might have knew somebody that me and David Higgins would have stayed with, or Richie Coughlin, or Jody Fannigan, or Porrick, or somebody would have stayed with them through the likes of people like Jim, who had done it before, travelled around, and knew a few people around. So you sort of shared your wealth as well around the whole area. You know, you went to Kilkenny, Damien McGrain's mum and dad used to look after me. If I went down to Kells, you know, I sort of was more friendly with Damien's parents than I was with Damien, you know. You know, and that's nothing against Damien. No, we're good buddies, you know. Or you go to Portmarnock or Royal Dublin and you stay with Noel Fox, or you know. So it was a little bit more creative then, because you had to be a little bit more creative. But you know, like you had to get trains and maybe get off at other train stations and go around. Now a lot of people are and that's the way evolution goes. We're all sort of suited and booted better now. And I mean, I remember playing I remember caddying for Paddy Gribben when he won the Ulster Boys, and me and Paddy had to go up the left hand side of the first hole to find a few golf balls for Paddy to play the final round against.
You're joking.
You know, so like that's, you know, and sometimes you couldn't afford to have a 5-iron in your bag, or a 4-iron, or it broke or something. You couldn't afford to get it, but you just hit an easy 4 or a hard 6. You got it right, you know.
And how much do you reckon? Like,
there's lots of great menus. There's lots of great memories there, and I personally would pick. I was sort of the Golfing Union, suppose, more ways than one, educated me as opposed to maybe school educating me. You know, they educated my demeanor, who I am today, my personality. You know, it was the Golfing Union played a massive part, whether it was Ulster or the Golfing Union as we know it. And I see it continues to strive, and I'm not saying, I'm not on here to give credit to, you know, Golfing Union all the time, but I think they've played a big part in a lot of young kids and a lot of people's lives, and I hope they continue on to do that. But there would be my fondest memories would be representing Ireland, you know, representing Ulster, beating Leinster, beating Connacht, you know, possibly a little bit like the rugby to a certain extent. And they were big. That was a big thing to do back then. You know, that was a massive, like all sports, you know. And the golfing community, as you know, it's a big community all over the world. There's a golf pro in every town nearly, and there's an assistant pro in every town. And, you know, the professional golfers probably don't communicate and gel together as much as amateur golfers do and would have, past and present. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that I the PGA do a great job, don't get me wrong, but I think us as individuals sometimes we don't do as good a job from the point of our actual PGA body. We should represent ourselves a little bit better, maybe, you know. That's just my opinion. But and don't get me wrong, like I've enjoyed myself playing professional golf every bit as much as amateur golf, but those early learning days, and suppose maybe stuff that you're looking out of people or things, maybe we learned by sort of not really realizing we were learning. Mm-hmm. We sort of learned by watching or looking or trying to be repetitive. And some of the coaches back then, suppose, sort of knew that and felt that. We sort of learned from each other. And, you know, we didn't have statistics or logistics or, you know, TrackMan machines or the amount of, you know, like most golf amateurs, professionals at the top level now are nearly treated like cars in the Grand Prix. They've got to go in for a pit stop. They can't perform unless they go and have a pit stop with their mental coach or have a pit stop with their technical coach. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I have never seen the numbers on it. You know, where years ago you sort of just got suited and booted, and you were kicked out and kicked onto whether it was a golf course or the pitch, and you were told to go and perform at your best and highest level. You didn't really know why or what was going on. You just went out and, you know, I was never one for attacking greens. I just attacked flags. I just loved trying to break flags. That's what Don Patterson always said to me. He says, don't be worried about the greens, just go out and try to break the flags. And when I'm out seeing the likes of you know, a Rory McIlroy playing golf. Like, it doesn't matter where the flag is. He's not looking at anything else, only the flag. You go and see the likes of Shane Lowry win the Open. He didn't care about greens, or he was just looking at flags because the short game is so good. He didn't care where he hit it or where he missed it. He was just confident. And I see the difference now, suppose, with, you know, years ago we sort of played into the dog leg. Now these guys go over the dog leg. You know, the golf's changed. We learned a sort of a craft of fading and drawing the golf balls, balata golf balls, and now these guys are these, you know, the way they make the golf ball and the drivers now, the thing just goes straight, and it's long and longer, and it's getting longer all the time. It's a power hitting game, and we were all long to a certain. I think all the long hitters always sort of got to the top. Whether you go back to, you know, Fred Couples sort of era that I would have played a bit of golf with way back in the early 90s, the Greg Normans, Nick Faldos, right up through to the you know, the Paul Caseys, maybe, and the Lee Westwoods. They all, and the guy who continues hitting the ball quite long his whole career will always hang around. Harrington, you know, went for length in 2006, 2007, and he's still a PGA Tour player. He can still compete. So it's been, you know, it's been a gradual. I think it's been good for the golf to see people trying to, you know, say, oh, but I personally think that, you know, both games grow. Like, I can understand about them being afraid of running out of land in certain golf course, but you know yourself, most people that I teach can't hit the ball very far. So the golf course are plenty long. But if guys want to get into gyms 6-7 hours a week or a day, whatever they do, and do their training, and it gets them to hit a golf ball 250 yards, fair play to them. You know, they've made a commitment to go and do that. You know what I mean? And if they want to eat the superhuman foods and even get more ability and go and see the superhuman statisticians of the world to try and get every edge they can, and go and see the mental tutors of the world, and even get better and better again. I mean, fair play to them. And I think Tiger Woods may have not maybe quietly back in the early 90s, whether it was his father or whoever, and that's what his edge was, and speed. You know, that's the most important thing. And you know, we weren't really taught that. We didn't really know about dietitians or massage therapists back when we were playing the way, you know, as kids and that. But it's great to see now that the young kids are involved in that, you know, performance enhancement, and people like yourself and, you know, other guys involved in the sort of new coaching era has brought that more into prominence around the world, you know.
And when you look back on your like early days and stuff, how much of it do you think, like, was it down, like, it sounds like you were just in some ways fortunate that you were born into this like hotbed of an environment that produced competitiveness, other lads to compete with, mentors, good people to be around, a bit of a legacy there already. And then how much of it do you think came down to, like, you had that innate like talent or drive yourself? Like, you know what I mean? How much was it environment, and how much was it down to what you had inside you yourself?
Well, I think like I've had I don't know. I mean, I've had thousands and thousands of golf lessons. You know, like, I used to go around the world playing a lot, and used to go for a golf lesson. Didn't care who the pro was, because you might get one little thing out of somebody. But I think I was smart enough back then to realize that I sort of kept the golf swing very simple. I sort of knew my golf swing from a very early age, and I had confidence in my golf swing. And as I said earlier, like I didn't really see water or see trees, or, you know, like, if I hit it in the trees, I was sort of happy to go into the trees, out of the trees, because I wanted to make a four or a birdie. You know, I wanted to prove to myself that I'm going to beat the trees. And the trees became an extra competitor.
Yeah.
You know, if I hit it in the fairway, it was just a normal day, because I hit most of my shots in the fairway, or a little bit of rough, whatever, and then it was another easy shot. But I sort of and the guy said it to me a long time ago. He says, never, always treat the trees as your friend, not your enemy. You know, like, it's only a tree. Hit it out onto the fairway, and then it'll hit the next shot in close. So suppose my mind, you know, my mental approach to playing the game, and the amount of practice that I would have done, maybe up until maybe I had a few knee surgeries when I was 18, and maybe 24 and 29. My knee still gives me a little bit of jip, but not a lot now. But like there've been so many golf balls hit. But as you said there earlier about the people that was around, like if I saw Jim Carville practicing for 5 hours, I wanted to practice for 5.5 hours. You know, if I saw Paddy Gribben practicing for 6 hours putting, I wanted to practice for 7 hours. You know, so luckily enough, I was brought up in an environment where, you know, like I'm not saying we weren't well educated, but we were sort of like suppose back in Northern Ireland, even though I went to grammar school and everything, but the last thing, suppose, on the parents' minds was worrying about a bit of education. We were more worried about getting a few bob into the household for the week and getting a bit of food on the table. But sure, look, you know, we weren't, you know, there was no industries or businesses that much around. You know, there was no. Where in Dublin, maybe now that I see, it's all about, you know, and Ireland, you know, it's a lot of, you know, even my own daughter who I'm trying to educate now at the moment because I'm trying to become a teacher, but it's all about education, get education and leave school and go to university, get education. And it is important because you need that piece of paper over your name. But suppose our education back then, collectively from that crop of players was golf. You know, we were sort of, golf was that's what we wanted to do. We didn't really want to do subtractions or multiplications, you know what I mean? Yeah. We wanted to go out and bait golf balls all day and bait the crap out of each other. Like, if you didn't shoot 64 on an 18-hole playing with Gary McNeil, Paddy Gribben, Jim Carville, you were getting laughed at. You know, the lads would, you know, and they wouldn't play with you the next day because you didn't shoot 65. You know? Yeah. But that's, you know, and then obviously Big Darren then would have popped over the odd time and we got 18, whatever, or we could play in Royal County down in events, or Robbie Hutton was a good old character we used to play a lot of golf with, and there's Brian Martin we used to play a lot of golf with, our Glass, and you know, when we all tried, even then we started driving, we all drove around, played one other to Dock or up to Baltray, and then, you know, so you just tried all the time, you know, and even things like the Links Golf Society was very popular, and that got you a chance maybe to become to be competitive for alongside Des Smith or Christie Senior, or sometimes Philip Walton or Christie Junior or Eamon Darcy, and then and that's, suppose, the mix today in golf is very amateur and very professional. You know, where, you know, it's a pity it wasn't a little bit more semi, suppose, where, you know, you could still maybe represent your club as a golfer, as a pro. We sort of, there's a lot of pros now. They're pro, and then after they've tried everything out and their head's been bait in trying to do it for so long, they lose. It's not so much the interest, but they lose the love of the game because maybe there's nothing to be competitive about anymore. Yeah. To look forward. So it's a little shame. Like those, as a kid, you grow up and that. Maybe that's just life. That's just the way life is, you know. But sometimes I often wonder if that should be more, you know, because being a top level professional golfer is an extremely difficult thing to become. You know, there's a lot of loneliness involved. You know.
That's funny. In Denmark, they have, like, the professionals can still represent their clubs when they're at home in the, like, senior cup, their version of senior cup and club.
Yeah, I think that'd be nice. Like, you know, I see sometimes up on the Sheen there we have a couple of guys come out. I think with a senior cup qualifier a few years ago, and there's some clubs, like, I'm not too sure now. I'm not saying, quote me on this, but maybe the Grange, maybe normally you would have had 5 single handicappers, or 5 scratch golfers. And I'm not saying it was the Grange, but I think it could have been. But one guy had to play a 5 or 6. But there's very few clubs now where you'd see, you know, bar Naas or maybe Portmarnock, they're probably brought in or bought in. In some clubs where they get the chance to become from a different club like Sligo, and they move over to Dublin and they get into that club. But it's very hard to be a scratch golfer and work the hours in our society the way we work now and the way we live our life now, you know.
Big time.
You know, it's very difficult, and I do think that would be Denmark. That's a very, very smart to do, because, like, if I was playing senior cup, say for, you know, say the Grange Golf Club, even being a pro, I could turn around maybe and give some young junior golfer, some junior golfer, some type of advice to some degree that could make him become, even better.
Absolutely, yeah.
Where if I'm out in the cold room, I'm not doing that. I've just had these two Egypts here turn up on their bicycles beside me here.
Oh, let's have a look.
TC and Marco. I'm doing an interview with Donald Scott, golf coaching here. How are you, Donald?
Well,
there's these are real athletes now,
There's the guards here now. I don't know. Have you been out and about in your 2 kilometers?
I'm doing I'm doing an interview with Raymond on basically like high performance golfers. So we're doing what they should do now. But if I want to know what they shouldn't do, I'll talk to you too, right?
we've always time for you, Donald. Life coaching by Donald.
Life coaching by Donald.
Raymond.
Yeah.
I can press pause. I'll press pause if you want and go chat to the lads.
Right. You might as well put it in. Yeah. Yeah.
We're just here to boost his ego.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Okay.
Enjoy. I'll talk to you. Right. Good luck. See you.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry about that. That's just my my other professional athletes.
That's your pit stop team.
I never thought I'd see the day where 50-year-old men would turn up and ask me, Raymond, do you fancy going for a 30-kilometer cycle? So we're out doing that. We're out doing that now during the lock-in. We sort of go around 2 kilometers 10 times.
Here, so you were saying, oh yeah, in terms of the competitiveness, right? Like, how much do you like? I kind of see this now myself. Times, like, I think the competitiveness is sometimes lost a little bit, and it's almost how would I put it? I know I've been guilty of this sometimes as a coach in the past before, where we've almost like prized, now our technique and stuff over our competitiveness. Where it sounds like throughout your career, competitiveness ran through it from start to finish. Like it was going out to compete, and then.
I think most golfers that I've spoken to, most players, and like, I used to go out to Palm Springs way back in the early 90s, myself and David Higgins, and Liam Higgins' father, we became quite friendly with the Harmon family. Claude Harmon, their father, was the golf pro over in Thunderbird Country Club in Rancho Mirage, and I got to know Billy Harmon really well. He's one of the leading golf coaches in the world, Butch Harmon's brother, and we've often spoken to, even the Bruce Litskys of the world, that, these guys, maybe the people wouldn't, people that are watching your, looking or listening to your shows or whatever, but even the Fred Couples, these people were extremely competitive from a very early age. Like Greg Norman, who I've played with a few times, Greg Norman would go through you to save a half a shot. He'd literally go through the wall to save something. These people were highly, highly competitive on the golf course. Like, if they were boxers, you wouldn't be able to breathe for any of the seconds or minutes that you would be on a boxing ring. They never ever let down. And you see the college golf in the States now, where a lot of these kids are coming from the college golf straight onto the PGA Tour, which is quite phenomenal, because the coaching is probably, and the statisticians and everybody involved have probably nearly got it down to a T now, where they're nearly, and bringing them straight from college, like Marikawa or Mike Wolf, or these people that are coming on, the Danish golfer as well, and not Danish, the Norwegian kid that played for Oklahoma, I can't think of his name, but I think Lee Trevino was so competitive. Like, his best friend's father cut grass at the golf course. He got a chance to go play golf. He hit a couple of golf, but he was being so competitive at trying to hit the golf ball every time the same way. And then he was playing golf for money with no money. Raymond Floyd's of this world, who gambled on the golf course, beating people. And these guys all learned. Tiger Woods playing from a very junior league, Ernie Els, Phil Mickelson's, like, they're so phenomenally competitive. Padraig Harrington is probably one of the most fiercest competitors that I've ever seen in the golf course. He's probably number one in the mental part of the game that I've ever seen anybody in world golf, what he's achieved and what he's done. I see the same with Rory. He just wants to. He just. It's like going to Atlantic City. You know, they don't need to put Frank Sinatra's name on the billboards. They just put he's here. You know, Rory just shows up at a golf tournament and he's there to perform. He's a performance artist at the highest level.
Yeah.
And you can say what you want to say, whether I think he's an amazing kid. I think he's an amazing golfer, he's an amazing caddy before and now. He's becoming an even more amazing athlete, and he just loves competing, loves performing at the biggest stage, the biggest level.
Mm.
And throughout, I think all the great competitors in the world, whether it's swimming, hockey, you have to love what you do. Gaelic football, even a team sport, one man to say can't make a team. Sometimes one man dominates a team to dominate the one man, and everybody then connects and has that, sort of royal euphoria moment, whether they win something from being behind or being the underdog, You see that a lot with Ireland football team, that you put out 11 basket cases on the pitch, and all of a sudden they start playing football that was unbelievable, and they go and win the match 1-0. And sometimes and it's fierce competitiveness, and we're talking about a sport that, don't get me wrong, this sport is not bent. I mean, tell me, I don't care what people say about drugs and sport and different things, but golf's a very game where there's a lot of things involved. Downhill lies, uphill lies, wind off the left, wind off the right, bunkers, different sands, different greens, different temperatures, different winds, different tee boxes, uphill, downhills, and for some of the people, the golfers that have got involved, the different dynamics that a golfer has to learn to play around the world. And for people to come from Vijay Singh from Fiji, and people from Denmark to come to play golf at the highest level, South Africa and all, and go and play in different countries, eating different foods, traveling around, being away from their family and all. Gary players the world, like, it's a tremendous testimony to what they've achieved in life. I'm not sure if the kids today, the only thing that I see from the kids today to the people that I played golf with years ago, the good players, in my opinion, even Monty, they always smile. They seem to be always happy in themselves. Even though they hit the ball out of bounds, and maybe John Ram might break 2 clubs on the way down, not let anybody know. That's fair enough. For Tigers throwing iron in the water, I don't mind that sort of aggressive 5-second lost the head job. I see that, I quite like it, right? But I think that they're always happy to be on the golf course, and they know if they make a bogey or a double bogey, they'll go and make 4 birdies or 5. They'll surprise. Right. They're always, yeah. And I think that's probably clinically the thing that a lot of kids out there, if I was giving advice to people that are going pro, and very, very seldom I'm ever asked, because I always give the honest answer. And I think that you have to, it's a bit like Brazilian play football. If you score 8, we'll score 9. I'll go out, I'll try and birdie every hole. If I birdie 10 or 11, I've shot 62, 63. If I have 3 or 4 bogeys, I've shot 66, 67. I think you have to have that mindset today, is that you just have to be you nearly have to be overconfident and go out. And of course, we all have nerves, but most of the great players will combine their nerves and their overconfidence, and they'll bring it in. They'll sort of bring it in the same place, and that's how they strive to, to do the things that they've done. They'll always find that moment, and that will come from within. It'll come from what they've learned in the past, maybe unknowing them to themselves. Like Shane Lowry, when he gets the lead, Shane gets a sniff. He's going to win because he's so competitive, and he's done a lot of great mental work with Neil Manchip. He's very confident in his technique. Sometimes doesn't work and he gets down himself. We all do, but it's the ability to bounce back up like Roy Keane off the football pitch. If you see Roy Keane down, it was a broken leg. It wasn't. He wasn't moaning and crying. You see a lot of these 100 million footballers now rolling over and crying down. The older guys didn't do that, but I think that's the difference most of the golfers are all the same over the last 4 or 5 decades, personality-wise.
Yeah.
They seem to always enjoy and smile. And once they come off the golf course, of course, we can all get a little bit peed off and a little bit, I wouldn't say depressed, but a little bit sort of pissed off of our score. We left one behind, but you have to enjoy what you're doing. And if you don't enjoy doing it at that level, don't do it. And I can understand there's been some great players that maybe haven't become, great players. And that's grand. Maybe they didn't want to go down that route of totally, not saying go down the route of totally golf just becomes their whole life and leave everything behind. But I think you have to do that to a certain extent. You need a great team behind you. You need some great people that you can rely on. You need some great family members. And you need to be in a nice place with yourself if you want to continue on in this game. But I see it with John Rahm. I see it with Lee Westwood. Lee Westwood, he's enjoying his golf now as much as he did when he first started in 1994. Mm-hmm. I see it with Harrington. He enjoys his golf now. He's played over 4 decades. He enjoys his golf maybe even more now than he did then. And I think that's the key. You can have all your golf coaches. They're very important parts of the the overall structure. You can have all your dietitians, extremely important part of the structure. You can have all your mental coaches, again, very important part of the structure. But overall, I think you have to be very happy with what you're doing and enjoy how and where and when you're doing it.
What about, the way, like you were saying there, it kind of became like a dirty word over the last 10, 15 years with Bob Rotella and stuff. Not specifically Bob Rotella, more like, don't think about your score and, don't, you should be in the moment and all that kind of stuff. But it sounds to me like, and I've heard this from all the people who've had the chance to chat to a lot, it's like when you have that fierce competitiveness in you and and you want to win, and if you have 3 birdies, I have 4, and if you shoot 64, I'll shoot 63, and if you shoot 65, I'll shoot 64. It's like you have an awareness of your score, and you're so fucking competitive. You're like, I am not giving in. Like, where do you sit on that balance? Like, what have you seen, or what's your thoughts on that? When you look back and what you see?
I think I'm not a big social media person, but I saw something there the other night with Calcavecchia and Tiger Woods, and Calcavecchia was, I can't remember the tournament. It was the last round, last green, Calcavecchia and Woods, and Tiger was going to win again, and Calcavecchia rolled a 20-footer past, about 8-foot past, and he went up to tap the putt in, and Tiger turned around and says, just take your time with that one, bud. Like you can say Tiger's always in the moment, but and Calcavecchia sort of paid homage. It was a nice thing for him to say because it was worth $300,000. Now Tiger Woods knew his putt was worth $300,000. He knew that Mark Calcavecchia needed the $300,000, and he said, "Look, just take your time there, but." And he went and I think all great players are always aware of what's going on around them. If they're not, personally, they're obviously doped. They can't see what's going around them, or they're telling lies. I think everybody knows what's going on. Like Nick Doherty, Paul Casey was on Ryder Cup Medina last week. Nick Doherty turned around the putt he had to win the Ryder Cup or half Ryder Cup. Well, did you see were you thinking of Bernard Langer's missed putt? He says, Nick, it was on the screen in front of me. American television had it on the screen in front of him.
No way.
Of course he was. Of course I was thinking of the putt. Now, I didn't know it was on the screen. Nick Doherty didn't know it was on the screen. But Paul Casey knew it was on the screen. So he'd all them people around him, but yet and all he knew that putt was on the screen. He got up and held the putt anyway. But that's the sign of if you're good at something and you want it, most people will go and get it. There's a lot of help there now. There's a lot of people around there, and there's a lot of great players and great champions now. Whether you can do it over a 20-year period or 30-year period, it's a very, very hard question now, because you have to bring your body to the edge now. Like Jason Day gets a lot of injuries. Brooks Koepka now get a lot of injuries. Is there Justin Johnson, a few injuries, few knee problems, getting a bit older, body doesn't go as well as, I think this, so don't get me wrong, this lockdown, this break that we're having at the moment it may help
Big time, yeah.
some of these. Yeah, it may help some of these players that maybe were struggling a little, like Jordan Spieth. It's very hard to play golf through tough times. It's very easy to play golf through when everything's plain sailing. So I think it's given everybody in the world a little wake up call to their behavior or how they were behaving, or if it was good or bad. So I think in sport in general, they're worried about sport. But I think sport will come back even stronger going forward. I think more people will take up sport. Because that's just. I think there was a lot of laziness around the world with sport to a certain extent, a lot of time consuming. But I think from a golf perspective, I do think that most of the guys and most of the people that have come good at it have always had good breeding and always have practiced hard enough to become whatever they wanted to become.
And when you go back to, like, say, certainly from what I heard from yourself and then other people talking about when they would have played with you back in the day, you would have had a very strong, like, certainly would have been perceived as a really strong mental game, really strong self-talk, very confident, very direct, very competitive. How much of that did you cultivate yourself, and how much of that was brought out in you by the people you were brought up with?
I think that's broad. I think that just is broad within. You just bring that within, and people you hang around, and people you're about with, and I think other sports that I played, team sports, back to when we first started a little chat. The guys that I used to play, we were always competitive, and you always wanted to. But I knew I had enough. I knew that I had enough golf balls to back that up.
Right.
I knew that I had enough putts to back that up. Like, look, you can't go into a gunfight with a knife. You have to go into a gunfight fully loaded. And I knew that I was going in there to play golf, whatever level I was playing at or whatever age. And even today, I still hit balls every day, and I still go down and play with some of our friends sometimes in Edmondstown, Barry and a few of the boys. And I know if I practice for 2 or 3 days, I'd probably get very cocky and beaten then. If I practice a lot but I don't think you get anything out of any sport unless you have full commitment to be at a very high level.
Right.
Like, you have to be fully, like, the more 7-irons you hit, the more wedges you hit, the more pitches you hit, you're going to have, the more reps you do, you're going to have that shot in the golf course. The more 3 woods over water from 235 that you hit. And then if you try it, like, if you don't try that out in competitive golf and you lay up, you're never going to know you can do that. So it's the guys who have the sort of special commitment over the shot and hit enough 3 woods high over the water from 270 or 280. They know they can do that. Then they'll bring that into competition. And they see that shot once, they can repeat that shot next time.
And it's almost like they're not afraid to fail because they know this is my opportunity to prove to myself that I can do this.
They are saying themselves, like, this is what I'm here for. Like I'm not here for a haircut. I'm sitting on this hole here for this 3 wood. That's my job. That's what people are watching me to do. They want to see me laying up and hitting a wedge and making the putt. Either they'll go and have an ice cream and watch TVs or something, or look at their phone. They want to see that shot over that water. They want to see that special moment, the crowd. That's what, and that's a lot of these kids are engaging. And I'm sure the PGA Tour and the TV and all are all come together. They want to see it's it's a show. It's showtime.
Yeah.
They want to see that happening. They're not interested in little small little chip and runs and all. They want to see that exotic golf shot, and that's what. And if you hit enough of them in practice, you will certainly hit them, in your round of golf. But you have to, and you'll be given the chance and the option. Now, sometimes, look, I remember Billy Harmon telling me he was caddying for Bill Haas one day, his buddy, and they were playing at US Open. I can't remember if it was Shinnecock or the place in Chicago. I can't think of the name of the golf course, Illinois. And it was a 2-iron, and Jay just said, Bill, look, I just don't have that shot in me today. Like, I just can't hit that, you know. And he hit a wedge, and he hit a wedge down, right? It was a wedge, and he hit a wedge down, and then he held the next shot with a wedge, you know. So he got down in 2 anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know, Jack Johnson winning the Masters with knocking it up short. You know, like Sergio Garcia went to 6-iron over the water to 3 feet. You know, Seve going in the water, Seve going over the water. You know, that's why we play. You know, that's people stand up and hitting driver. That's why Rory hits driver everywhere. You know, it's I mean, if you can't hit, Lee Westwood said to me years ago, you had 2-iron there. He said, Raymond, if you can't hit a driver up there, what's the point in being here? You know, you have to, like, you just have to go out. Everybody else is trying to be 40 under par. And that's the way it's going. They're becoming so good. The green reading machine. You people like you, Mark Sweeney, and all developing all these numerical numbers and statistics and all the like. There's so much more information out there, whether it's good or whether it's bad. As he says, I'm a great believer. Look, if it's given to everybody's got a chance to learn it. You know what I mean? And you go off and you do what you do. If it slows up play, just play a bit quicker in another part of your game. You know what I mean? But I do think that's the difference is you hit golf ball after golf ball. Ben Hogan did it, Tiger does it, Rory does it, you know, young JT, Justin Thomas does it. They all do it, you know.
Do you know, I think
John Ram.
You hit the nail on the head there when you said I think one of the reasons that we find some superstars engaging is like they go out to shoot 40 under par. Do you know what I mean? They go out to win the tournament. They go out to hit the big shot. They go out, like, they're not going out to try and finish top 20 or earn a tour card or do this. They're there to, like, they're in it to win it. You know what I mean?
They're there to win. You know, same with Monty. You know, Monty was there, unbelievable player, unbelievable golfer. Now, he may not have practiced as much as people say he did, you know, but he did put a lot of work in. You know, Darren Clark, huge golfer for long time. Like, I can't tell you many. Like, Darren Clark, like, I had a pain in my ass watching Darren Clark practice. Like, he put some amount of work in. People might think that. You know what I mean? Paul McGinley's, you know, the Des Smiths, you know, all these golfers, like, all these people. Like, personally, if I was to, I don't maybe see a lot of them on a day-to-day basis, but I honestly, personally, don't think a lot of the kids today spend enough time hitting golf balls. That's my own personal opinion. Now, people can criticize me and whatever. Fine, I don't really care. No one pays my bills, only me. But I just think that chipping, putting, practicing, all areas of the game. You know, I know the other areas are important, but if you hit enough golf balls, you'll have enough confidence to go on the golf course and hit those shots at any given time.
Yeah. And like, as well as that, the focus when you're hitting those golf balls, like, you know what I mean? I think sometimes, I know I've seen it with some of the kids that I've spent time with, they're there on the range, but they're not really there. They're half hitting a shot, half sending a message, half, you know what I mean? It's like, you know,
like
level of focus required.
Like, I went to the range with 6 bags of golf balls, 600 golf balls. And I wouldn't leave the range until I finished with those. Now, I had maybe a few jam or ham sandwiches with me. But, like, all you did, as I say, it's very difficult now, kids. Like, when I say kids, I'm talking even people up to 30. You've got stuff in your ears. You've got Netflixes. There's so many other social embargoes there that you get embargoed with. You know what I mean? And people ringing you and all. You know, years ago there was none of that. The golf was your phone, your social media. You know, like you just went and met at the golf club. Like, you couldn't text. I couldn't text Paddy Gribben and said, Paddy, I'll see you in 5 minutes. You know, you just had to come 20 miles on a bus. I just expected to see Paddy there. We still connected.
Yeah.
You know, but nowadays there's and it's hard for kids. You know, that's why I say, like, if you don't enjoy it, and you don't be getting yourself all into the rut because your dad wants you to play golf or your mother wants you to play golf or your coach. Like, you either want to go out and practice or you don't. You don't have to. No one's making you go out and practice. You know, I see a lot of kids that are sort of half practicers or quarter practicers, like, and that's fine. That's cool. I've no problem with that. I had to stop practicing because I didn't enjoy it anymore. I didn't want to do those sort of hours anymore. I got involved in golf in a different area. But it is hard. It is very lonely and very hard. But that's where the competitiveness. If you can stay competitive with it and do something that's competitive, then that's where the enjoyment part of it comes out even more. You know.
And it's the competitiveness. It's the competitiveness that drives the practice. It's knowing, well, if I stay out here for another half hour, I'll beat that guy when I play with him next week. I'll shoot the 64.
No, that's it. Like, I mean, I play in a few pro-ams, not a lot. Like, I would sort of call myself a 72 shooter now. Like, there'd be very seldom I'd shoot more than 76. There would be very seldom I'd ever break 70. But I'll be able to find a ray around the golf course maybe in 72 shots. Now, if I practiced a little bit more regularly, I could probably pull that down to below, you know?
Yeah.
Now, with the distance of the golf, I don't hit the golf ball far. If I could probably bring that down at 6.6 or 6.7, I could probably bring it down another 2, but I couldn't bring it down in the 7.4, 7.5. You know, and I think it's learning your limitations and learning what you need to be better at. Look at areas of your golf game that maybe, you know, don't be practicing the thing you're good at all the time. Maybe, you know, practice the weaknesses and try to improve the weaknesses a little bit. And then your numbers should improve. Like, we all know it's a numbers game. The numbers don't lie, you know. And if you can improve, and I wouldn't be a big sort of, like, I would always count maybe don't count the negatives. You know, I hate this. Like, if I ever saw people, 4-3 today, I'll beat him. Somebody else come off the course and says, I got up and down 4 times today, 4 great up and downs. Oh, fair play to him. He's in a positive. He's going to be dangerous this week, you know. And you always try to stay positive when you come off the course, and you had a bad old day, 74, 75 or 73, and things didn't go well. Maybe your hands felt a bit fat or something, or the grip. Well, those things happen, or you cut your sore toe or something, and you just didn't. And those days happen, you know.
Yeah.
Have a little competitiveness in your practice, you know. You know, give yourself, you had a couple of not too good 8-irons a day. Go out and try and hit a flag somewhere with the 8-iron, or hit a bucket of balls with the 8-iron and iron it out. I was a great believer in you went off on your own and you ironed your problems out, you know. Whether it was hitting a few shots or having a wee chat with yourself, or you missed a few 4-footers downhill left or right, you went to the basics, your feet, your sort of shoulders, your hips, and where was the club face. I didn't really worry too much about, you know, loft and putter. Maybe the length of putter, I sort of like the similar length. You sort of, you know, as a good golfer, you sort of know your sort of, you know, your loft and lies at a very young age. If you don't, like, your loft and lies don't change too much over a period of a lifetime. Right? So you sort of go and you work on a few things, you get the string out, whatever. And that was my way of hitting a few putts for an hour, and then go back maybe a couple of hours later, a few more putts, and then you go out the next day and your speed can be a bit better. Like, we can all read greens relatively, you know, there's a lot of luck involved to a certain extent, how the ball goes along the different lies and conditions of golf greens, you know. And, you know, I think if you grow up in bad greens, you'll probably become a good putter. If you grow up on good greens, you're always moaning that the greens are bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Like Porrick had a great putting stroke, had a great roll in the ball, learned it up in Stackstown. When Porrick went to course and he saw the perfect greens, he said, "Oh, this is unbelievable." You know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, you take somebody, you know, that's born in the country club in New York and the perfect greens, they go down and play in, you know, Alabama, and the greens are like upturned saucers and bumpy as hell. And like, he's going to be going home on the first plane.
Freaking out.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's the attitude towards, and it's learning how to deal with all them different you know, different situations, different greens. Chipping's different in a lot of parts of the world. You know, it's warm, it's cold, you know. And I think Irish guys, you know, that grow up playing golf here, and the winds and the back tees and the hard pans, soft fairways sometimes, and inland. When we go off to another course like America, we're sort of, it gives us a little bit more of a, you know, bit better feeling that, oh, look at this is unbelievable. We appreciate it a little bit more.
Yes.
Where you maybe, you know, a guy from England, the same guy from Scotland, maybe a guy, you know, from Denmark, whatever, the facilities maybe, and not that the facilities aren't as good or the golf course aren't as good, but maybe the weather isn't as good to give the facilities that type of performance than you would get in America, you know.
Yeah.
And but I do see a lot of these younger kids from the States that are coming through are a lot more humble from a lot of younger age, like the Ricky Fowlers, the Justin Thomases, the Jordan Spieths. They're really, 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 really nice kids. Now, whether it's a grounding that you get on the PGA Tour or grounding from college, but they're certainly very, very humble. And I always thought, like, a lot of our great players from Harrington's right through, like Graham McDowell's, are great ambassadors for the country, great ambassadors for Ireland, and they do appreciate where they've got to, because we all try to do it. It's very difficult, but like look at the commitment. The commitment that Graham McDowell has, like he's probably got at the moment the number one most commitment of any golfer that I've seen the last 6 months. Yeah. Like his work ethic and what he's trying to get a Ryder Cup team and winning, and the way he puts, and like them putts, just he wills them putts into the hole, you know.
Yeah.
And it's a tremendous credit to, you know, the whole the way he comes through his life and here and over to there, and the way he must. I mean, he must practice a hell of a lot to get to where he got to. Justin Rose, another golfer, unbelievable practicer, got a little injured there a few 7 or 8 months ago with his shoulder, and he just hasn't had the game that he's had. He'll get back there, no doubt about it. Henrik Stenson the same, but once you're not able to commit to the practice, it's very, very difficult to produce that. You have to keep topping up in golf. You're only as good as your last game of golf.
Yeah.
And you have to keep topping up, even if it's, you know, a little bit of, like Fred Couples hits lots of sand wedges because he can't hit lots of forearms because his body won't allow him to do that. You know what I mean? But he knows what he can. He'd still be doing a bit of practice, you know. So it's amazing. You know, it's an amazing sport, and it's great to see people studying it and people, you know, trying to get to the next, you know, trying to find the next. But I think it's there in front of you. You know, I think golf and competitiveness and, you know, the will to win and the will to do anything to win, and if you can try and grab the right guidance, you know, there's lots of very good people out there in all types of sports that can help you with that, and there's lots of volunteers and family members, and, you know, and that's what I would say to people going up through, you know, just try to choose. It's hard to, but just try to choose who you're around and who's around you, and stay grounded and, you know, stay humble, but at the same time you have to have that, you know, tigerish fierce competitiveness. So it's hard to find, you know. It's very, very difficult to find, you know. There's very few of them around, you know.
I think that's a good enough, like, I think that's probably what I was hoping to get out of this, is that, like, that mix that you've described is as good a mix as I could have hoped for, like, when you describe what a world-class talent is, and that's somebody who has phenomenal work ethic, total commitment, a humility and humbleness that recognizes the fact that, you know, there's a good chance I won't win, there's a good chance, but that is not going to stop me believing in myself that every time I tee it up, I'm in it to win it. Your competitiveness is through the roof. And that's kind of like, you know, it's the exact mix of how you would describe what a world-class athlete across any endeavor has, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. You know what, like, I'm just going back there in my own head, like, to when I just going back a few opens, but I've done a good few opens, and I've done a few final rounds in opens, you know, on the radio, and, like, I didn't do Stenson's final round there, but I did maybe a third round and a first round when he won in Troon, you know. And, you know, when he showed up in the first tee, and then he shot his decent enough score, and then you go into the media tent and everybody's horsing around for stats, and going around for stories. And then I read something about he had a lot of, spent a lot of time with Phil Kenyon, you know. So the story, okay, Phil Kenyon. Then I went out to the putting green and I sort of had a wee chat with Phil for a couple of minutes, and he gave me a little bit of insight and the amount of time he's practicing. And then I went down to the practice area and I seen him doing a little bit of work with a club turn around the other way with Pete Cowan, you know. Yeah. And then the third round, I'm out again with him and played phenomenal golf with Nicholson. And then I get a story from one of his friends, because he's from Gothenburg, and I have a few friends live in Gothenburg, and I met one of them out there, and he says, Raymond, the amount of time he's put into the game over the last while, he said, he hasn't stopped. His wife is from Gothenburg or something. His wife was telling his wife. So before he even won, I had that little story in my mind. This guy he actually dreamt, or he had a feeling that he could win this Open. And he actually put his time, effort. He went all out to win this event. He went out and won it. Then I'm over in Carnoustie, and I'll forget about Lytham for a minute, or I'll forget about Birkdale for a minute, but I'm over in Carnoustie. And I'm walking around Carnoustie, one of the practice rounds, just dandering around, nice ice cream, lovely day, just looking at a few of the holes. And I see Molinari walking around with some guy. The guy's just walking up and down the green, and he's taking a few numbers. So one of the caddies there, and I said, who's your man? That's some statistician guy, Raymond, did work with it, rugby, whatever. Yeah, he's working very hard with him. I don't even know, you would know the guy's name. I can't think of the guy's name.
Dave Alred.
Yeah, and I can't think of his name. Nice guy, went up and sort of, you know yourself, you're like Columba, you know, the guy detective for Beverly Hills. I'm like the Columbo of Carnoustie, going out with a little coat on me, sort of trying to get your man's attention, you know. And then I sort of get his attention, and I get a couple of things, investigating journalism, you know. And then I sort of slip over, and he has a coach down, Dennis Pugh, I think is his coach down. So I'm on the practice area, and I'm having a wee chat there, and I'm talking around. And then I get the same story. This is like the Saturday. And I'm saying to myself now, this story, I thought it might be a Tiger story. And then I'm in the last group with Tiger and Molinari, you know. And now Molinari did grab a little bit of luck. He did hit a little bit of a TV tower at 13, and Tiger made a wrong decision on one of the holes. But then I'm in Port Rush this last year, and I'm down, and I'm walking around, and I sort of see Shane, one of the, it's just nice to be score there, you know. And then I see Rory sort of unfortunate. And then I see another couple of golfers, and then I see Shane again. And then I go out and start doing a wee bit of investigating. And I think Neil got some, maybe doing some putting stat or something that we're at together, map something or whatever. I'm not sure exactly. Can't really. But I sort of seen the amount of work that he put in, and even the family commitment, and where they stayed, and the whole thing. And you know, now you could suppose say that for every golfer, but then in Birkdale, when I saw Jordan Spieth, when I saw him the first morning, on maybe the Tuesday morning, and I'm walking around the golf course, and I'm talking to his dad, who's a golf pro, with Matt Adams, who works for the Golf Channel, and they tell me that he was here for a junior tournament about 5-6 years ago.
Right.
And he just loved the golf course. And then he goes and wins the Open. From that moment, I sort of knew, this is your man this week. I sort of knew Stenson was your man that week. I sort of knew Molinari was your man that week. You know, the trend. And I think there's a trend out there, and only one person can win. And I personally do think it's the person who puts the most work in, and they all put the most work in, combined with the person who actually feels he's at home and very comfortable in himself. That mindset for that week. And I think it's a little bit like a custom fit. If those two things custom fit, there's your winner.
Yeah, when they come together.
You know, yeah, and once they come together, and I'm not sure if it's I'm not sure, you know, if you and I can, you know, get a kid and make him do that, you know, I don't know. I don't we can try to, but I do think a lot of the coaches that are out there know that, and they're trying that ability to try and grab that or grasp that moment or try to find that. There's a little bit of luck involved, of course, weather conditions, winds, high winds, strong winds, tee times. There's a lot of different variables, but there's just a little connection there, I think, between, and I remember at the Ryder Cup, and I'm out and I'm walking around the Ryder Cup on a Monday, and as soon as I walk the golf course, I was walking down the golf course with a caddy, and he just turned around, he says, Raymond, he says, just go and get as much money as you can and put it on Europe. And I says, why? He says, there's too much rough 30 yards off the fairway here. The Yanks won't be able to beat. And I was out walking with Carl Paulson, who works for his own golf show, and exactly, you missed it by 5 or 6 feet, you were okay. But if you missed it by 20 feet, you were gone. You couldn't. So they had the spectator ropeways back a lot. So there's an awful lot of what everybody's looking for collectively. I can remember back to where maybe I would have won certain things or lost certain things, and maybe I went somewhere the Friday before for a lesson, or I played golf with somebody, or I found something, or I was working on I always struggle to left or right winds, and I got the swing working left or right breeze, and I felt comfortable. If the golf course suited me, if it like the dog legs right to left, if the pin positions were back right, it suited me, it suited I could fade the ball. So all those things, and I think with all the information, and I know Harry does that for Rory. He has everything documented. Listens or not's another thing. I think he does, but he has all those things, and all those things all added up. I do think those champions, and it comes from a lot. It all stems from a serious amount of commitment and hard work from a particular defining moment. Whether it was 6 months ago, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, I'm not sure. And I think Lee Westwood has made that decision, certainly this year. And I think Graham McDowell to make Padraig Harrington's Ryder Cup team. I really do. And I do think there's other golfers that want to make Padraig Harrington's Ryder Cup team, and they've gone the Ryder Cup years they don't play well in because they're trying too hard to make it. They don't know how to separate the anxiety to actually the job at hand. And they get a little nervous and they falter, and they get quick, and they get out of routine, and they do quantity practice instead of quality practice. And that's the big thing as well, is quality practice that counts more than quantity.
Yes. And it's funny, it's like, I think as coaches, we would have always been trying to manage expectations, but sometimes you actually need to develop them, and you have to go, it's okay. It's okay to expect this of yourself, but then you have to have the acceptance that if it doesn't work out, I'm okay with it not working out. But
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We would have. I suppose you would have been scared of kids getting disappointed because they didn't make a team, and disappointed because they didn't shoot a certain score, and you're almost trying to tell them, don't.
Donald, I used to come home with my right ear boiling. Like Don Patterson would have no problem putting a victory grip on the side of my back. I would have no problem. And he would have no problem pulling my trousers around and pulling them to make sure that I was rotating properly. Now, those things you can't do anymore, obviously. No, he didn't. I'm not saying he beat me over the head with a victory grip, but he used to put the grip beside me. He says, you'll have a red ear if you don't turn correctly there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and he would give me a bollock. He would turn around to me. He said, I can't believe you let your man beat you. Like, what sort of an idiot are you? You know what I mean? And then I'd go home all sad and everything like that. I'd say to my mom, your man's given out to me. Yeah, he should be given out to you as well. He didn't do your homework today. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you figure, yes. And then you come home, your dad would ask you, what's wrong with you? Mama gave out to me and Dawn gave out to me. Yeah, they're right to give out to you. You didn't do something else. And all of a sudden you say to yourself, all right, I'm going to piss these three off now the next time. And I come into the house and what's wrong? Well, I went and won today. So anything wrong with my homework? Anything wrong with the grass? Nothing. And then I wouldn't ring Dawn for 2 weeks. I said, what's wrong? I said, well, no, I'm not talking to you. You know what I mean? But, it was a little bit like Ricky Fowler, Butch Harmon saying to Ricky Fowler, he said, what's wrong with you? Butch turned around, he says, you're trying to become a Kardashian. Like, what are you, the fourth Kardashian? So it pissed him off a little bit, you know what I mean?
Got him
sailed
going.
out and won. He got him going in Quail Hollow or whatever. So I think as well, you have to have a little bit of that. You have to get to know the person you're coaching. You have to get to know their personality. You have to get to know what makes them tick. And I saw that from a very early age with Neil Manship and Shane Lowry. And I think it's great testament to Neil what he has done on a quiet way with Shane. And Michael Bannon has done the same from a very early age with Rory. And it's great to see that both players, because there's a lot of there's a lot of Bruce Grobblers out there trying to grab Rory McIlroy for coaching and trying to grab Shane Lowry. I want to change things, and it's a great testament to both players and they're both coaches that sort of stand out of the way. They might get the odd photograph here and there, whatever, by mistake, but they sort of stay in the limelight. And I think it's a good testament to the way coaching should develop going forward. And it's very hard to coach 10 or 12 or 20 different people. You know what I mean? Yourself, a coach, there's swing coaching, and then there's personality coaching,
Big time,
and you have to maybe divide the two and try to put them in as a complete arsenal. There's no point having an arsenal and a fire over here that won't take off, and then having another arsenal over here that will take off, So I do think that, that there's nothing wrong with being given out to. I always liked, even today in the shop, not today, but I'd go up to the shop and I'd always be asked a few members, is everything all right? What do you think of the shop, and what do you think of maybe somebody working for me? Your eyes a wee bit chirpy, or look, I think the shop needs change around, and I actually quite like, it's criticism, but it's criticism that I take it the right way. Too many people take it the wrong way. And too many people don't like being talked down to or talked to in a certain fashion. But Don was very good at that to me. Even Howard Bennett, even some of the GOI coaches. I remember our GOI man Brendan Edwards. I'm playing Massimo Scarpa one day, and he said to me, "I'm 5 down after 10." And I come over. He said, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm 5 down." And he says, "You're some useless bastard," right? Straight out of the blue. I said, "What? He's 5 down." He said, "What sort of an idiot are you?" And he just walked away. I birdied 7 the last 9 holes and beat Massimo 2 up. You know what I mean? Brendan just pissed me off so much.
You weren't getting big.
Yeah, and I walked by him at the end, and he sort of had a wee grim smile and a wee wink, and I was ready to knock him out. I was going to knock him clean out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And later down the road, we'd often laugh about it but he knew what to say to me at that right moment in time.
Yeah.
And it was only for it was a St Andrews Trophy match or whatever, and he knew it was going to be being picked for Walker Cup. He was a Walker Cup selector. He probably wanted to pick me, but he needed a lot of evidence to pick me. Absolutely. And that probably, he liked that. And I think that and that happens a lot. And I spoke to Joe Carr. I used to live with a lady and her family over in Portmarnock in Baldoyle years ago, and the father was great friends with Joe Carr. I spent a lot of time talking to Joe and about, and it was all about not wanting to be beaten. He just didn't want to show up and be beaten. So he just wanted to practice and play and go out and beat people. If he had been a boxer, he would have had 120 knockouts. Somebody can get you the odd time. That's going to happen. They get Tiger. But I remember you said to me, to become a great winner, you have to become a great loser. And I think Tiger is probably the best loser in the world. Because he loves the competitiveness so much. He likes the fact that somebody can beat him, so he can go out and make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, he needs that. He probably needed Vijay Singh and Stephen Ames to do those things to drive him on and become even better.
Exactly. Yeah, and he needs guys. Maybe that's why he hangs around a little bit with Justin Thomas. I mean, I like Justin Thomas's personality. He's jumpy, he's young, he's vibrant. You know, he wants to be the best. He practices hard, and Tiger probably sees that. And Tiger can maybe jump off that, and maybe, you know, Tiger's not stupid, like, you know.
Feed off
You know, and I
it.
think, yeah, and I think he's used that young kid, you know, and he's got lovely parents, and his grandfather's a pro, and he loves golf. He comes from a golfing fraternity, and Tiger knows that, you know. And that's why Tiger likes to play with him in Ryder Cup or President's Cup, spruced him up a little bit. Tiger likes to wind him up, you know, and he's done that, you know. And even people like, I mean, look, Patrick Reed. I mean, you talk about competitiveness. Like, I mean, look, we can all say he's done what he done, and that's a different story. We're not involved in those stories, but I mean, the competitiveness of that man, like that's when you look up the dictionary competitiveness. There's a little photograph of Patrick Reed there, like small, little, rather bigger lad, like baiting the G400 driver up and baiting it onto the green, and putts like God, and it doesn't care what anybody says, talks about him like his family scenario and everything. Like, that's a very hard thing to play with, but he has an inner strength, an inner spirit in there. He's just a gladiator, and you know, like, it just comes out, and like a fierce competitor, you know. It's very Lee Trevino-ish, you know, that sort of sparred Jack Nicklaus to go and win a few more majors, you know. And I think everybody needs that type of character around. That it helps the show, you know. It you know, everybody loves the villain. Every movie has a villain, you know, and has a guy like Patrick Reed. But I've never seen anything like the competitiveness on TV or watching them live. And you know, I'm not saying every kid should go out and try to be Patrick Reed, but certainly try and develop some of the strengths, or try to get some of the scenarios out of his body that he has, because of him and Justin Thomas. And you see Ricky's a little bit, he probably has the same passion, but it doesn't come out in the same way.
Yeah.
You know, possibly, you know, I'm not sure. But John Ram and Justin Thomas certainly are two kids that I've seen have phenomenal talent, and will probably have 40-year-old careers in golf, you know.
Yeah. Well, Raymond, thanks a million.
No problem, Don.
I'll give you a chance to go catch up with the other two cyclists.
Yeah, I hope that helps